Heath woke with a start. Warning klaxons blaring, lights flashing, and generalized chaos assaulted his senses. He struggled out of his freshly drained stasis pod, now strangely horizontal, and clambered to his feet, struggling to shake the last of his slumber away. He looked about himself, trying to understand what was happening and why he was awake. The red lights in the warning klaxons were indicative of a hull breach, and a big one at that, but there was no evidence of the vacuum of space siphoning off his atmosphere. Rather, everything appeared as if it had been jostled violently. Ideas and possibilities whirled through Heath's mind as he rushed to the control panel and inspected the touchscreen display. The comforting and familiar sight of his ship settled him somewhat. The jagged and box-like edges that would only ever be viable for travel in a void, forming a rough ring shape. He searched the display in a panic for the location of the breach. A red outline indicated that the vegetable garden had been breached, but life signs still showed green for each of the specimens. The water and atmosphere signs were all green lit as well, and there were signs of movement. Heath blinked and looked more closely. There were definite signs of movement in the garden bay, not individual or varied, only a mass of motion directly over the breach. Heath steeled himself and woke the ship's advanced AI. "Trexer, wake up." A long series of colourful symbols and bright-sounding clicks and whirls emanated from the display as the AI woke. After a short moment, the blaring klaxon silence replaced by a vaguely feminine, sympathetic voice. "What is our situation, Heath?" "I don't know," Heath replied. "Sensors indicate a hull breach in the garden bay, but no venting of atmo or loss of plant life. Any ideas?" Trexer contemplated for a moment, signaled by a faint whirring and clicking added to her program to make her more relatable. "The best case scenario? Comic collision that's melting slowly into our ship before letting in the void. Worst case, our sensors are lying to us and we're trapped on some planet, slowly taking on the thickened atmosphere of an alien world." Heath rolled his eyes. Trexer could be so dramatic. Open a camera display. With the klaxons gone and death not seeming directly imminent, he could calm down somewhat. He forced himself to observe the view screen critically. What he saw startled him. "Trexer, are you seeing this?" "Yes," Trexer answered, "but I have no clue what I'm looking at." Heath racked his brain for the right words. "It looks like a well?" Indeed, the image on the view screen indicated that a spherical metal protuberance of some kind had thrust itself through the floor in the garden bay and was issuing forth a liquid that was, after a moment's focus, obviously water, in copious amounts. The protuberance itself made a circular hole in the floor. It jutted up about 70 centimeters and was about 50 centimeters wide. The water spilled over the edge of it, the sheer volume of the fluid bringing the level of the water about 2 centimeters above the edge of the mass. Trexer had been searching her databases, making that high-pitched clicking and whirring sound that meant she was thinking. "It looks more like a hose to me. A big hose, but a hose." He swore and demanded, "Outward cameras, now!" Instantly, the display changed, showing the void of space, from cameras emerging from some well-built shielding to protect from stellar radiation. An object took up most of the view. Trexer instantly started clicking and whirring, building a constructed three-dimensional model of the object and its relative position to the ship. Heath took one look at the object and found himself suddenly totally incapable of speech. It was a ship. Not a ship Heath recognized, but very obviously a ship. There was some kind of proboscis jutting from the other ship into Heath's own ship, and it was plain that that was where the water was coming from. It was enormous, easily 5 times larger than the entire ring of Heath's ship. It was also black. A shade of black so unreflective that Trexer was calculating its size and dimensions based on the absence of starlight, rather than the presence of substance. It was a solid mass with no discernible regularity. From the portion Heath could see, it looked like a featureless, amorphous thing that was shaped vaguely like a sphere, but with several protuberances and folds. After a moment, Heath shook himself from his stupor and barked, "Hail them, Trexer. We can't afford the kind of pressure they're giving us, and I doubt they can afford to give us so much water." Trexer immediately let the calculations of the size and exact shape of the other ship run in the background, as she struggled to launch radio transmission. What came back to them was on the same wavelengths Trexer was trying to communicate with, and it was little more than a beep, and a stream of regularized signals that Trexer struggled to identify. As Trexer tried to compute the signals, a subroutine of hers, until now dormant, took over. Trexer sighed in relief, which caused Heath to relax somewhat, until Trexler's voice, scared and tight, spoke again.
Heath.
Heath started and sat up a little straighter. What is it, Trexler?
Well, a subroutine just took over. It's,
Heath swore. Trexler, just tell me already.
It's the first contact program.
A full beat passed while Heath let that sink in. He suddenly was extremely grateful for the standardization of Earth deep space vessels. A one-man trip to the Berners star colony would never have otherwise been prepared for this. After another moment, Heath asked, What are they? Trexler relayed what the program was telling her so far.
They seem to use a base 4 numeric system, and they also are, apparently, very surprised to see us, too.
Are they friendly?
Too early to tell, but they're trying to talk, so that's a good sign.
Trexler and Heath waited tensely for the program to decipher the transmissions and set up a translation application. It was taking longer than it should have, but just as Heath was about to comment as much, a pleasant ding issued from the display console, signalling that the translation service was set up. Before Heath could say anything, though, a wholly synthetic voice came over the speakers. This is Species Unified Research Ship 306, hailing unidentified vessel. Do you respond? I repeat, do you respond? The voice sounded like an automated text-to-speech service, but it got the idea across. Heath silently signaled to Trexler on the screen that he was ready to respond. This is the private ship Heimerdinger. We respond. The voice answered. Sorry, Heimerdinger. We didn't ask permission before pumping atmosphere into your ship, but readings indicated that the only thing in your ship was gas, along with some faint life signs. We don't want you suffocating. How did you lose so much atmosphere? Heath took a moment to review the atmosphere statistics on the display. Everything was nominal, except, of course, the pressure was rising with the influx of so much water. What was that, 306? Our atmosphere is nominal, we're just fine. Why are you moving so much water over? Can you even afford that? There was a moment of silence. What do you mean that your atmosphere is nominal? Readings indicate a gas of 79% nitrogen and 21% oxygen with 1% trace gases. No living thing could... The voice cut off, then spoke again. Apologies. Would you be so kind as to send over biological data? I think it could unsilk some things. A visual indicator told Heath that this was a new speaker and offered the possible context for unsilk to be clear up. Heath gave Trexler the go-ahead and answered. Sending now. Maybe you could do the same? Trexler whirled and clicked as she received a stream of data, fed it through the translator, and displayed it. Depicted before Heath was a crustaceous being with 2 forelimbs for grasping, 7 compound eyes and stalks, 6 locomotive limbs positioned underneath, and the long tail. On the whole, it reminded Heath of pictures he had seen of shrimp or lobsters, but with very different proportions. The scale on the side indicated that these beings were about 1.5 meters tall, not counting the eye stalks, and about 2 meters long, counting the tail. Biological data appeared about pre-effort environment, and structural integrity appeared on the side, and Heath gawked. They were aquatic. The confusion about atmosphere suddenly made so much more sense. The synthetic voice spoke again. The visual indicator told Heath that it was the second speaker from before. Clearly, this has been some sort of misunderstanding. Are you certain that you prefer a gas-filled environment, Heimerdinger? Yeah, pretty sure. If you don't mind me asking, what do your species call themselves? Humans. Well, human, welcome to the galaxy. You're a little past the frontier, but welcome anyways. We are the Anthrac. You can keep the water, I suppose. Let us just patch up this tear in your hull. There was a resounding thunk throughout the ship, and the camera feed that had been shoved at the corner showed the hose vanishing from the floor, and the resulting hole being filled with some sort of grey paste that reacted with the water left on the floor of the garden bay to instantly protect the ship from the void of space. If you don't mind, might we tag along to your destination, just to make sure you survive the trip? Are you sure? That's, Heath trailed off and checked the clock above the fallen stasis pod behind him. 2-year wait. Oh, does your species not have FTL travel yet? No, we don't. Even better. We'll take your ship aboard, put it in one of our void storage bays and simply ferry you there ourselves. With your permission, of course. Heath checked with Trexler, who displayed an emoticon of a shrug. Heath answered for the both of them and said, Sure, why not? The ship visible in the exterior cameras shot out what looked like magnetic harpoons, attaching to the Heimerdinger, with a faint clunk, clunk, clunk. The synthetic voice spoke again. Excellent, where are we going? Trexer sent the coordinate data for the Burner Star colony, an artificial conglomeration of ships and structures cobbled together about half an astronomical unit from Burner Star, building out of asteroids and subsisting mostly off of photovoltaic panels. Oh, we'll be there in about 10 minutes. Heath blinked. That almost felt unreal. He asked the synthetic voice, which the translation had slowly gotten better at adding tone to. Okay then, do I hold on to anything? There was a pause. Yes, you had better hold on to something, or maybe submerge yourself in liquid. We'll tell you when we're ready. Heath sighed and got up, walking over to the stasis pod. Trexer, record everything, and star alert while I'm out, okay? Trexer answered in the affirmative, and Heath laid himself down in the stasis pod and booted it up, letting the silicate gel flow over him and anesthetize him. What a story he would have to tell.